We're back with Mitch D'Olier, President and Chief Executive Officer of Kaneohe Ranch Company and the Harold K. L. Castle Foundation.
There's a lot of executives that come to Hawaii and then for one reason or another can't fit in and end up leaving. What advice could you give to executives coming to work here in order to fit
Marry
in?
an island girl from somewhere. I was really blessed because Bambi grew up in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And Bambi's transition to Hawaii was easier than the transition of a lot of spouses of friends of mine that have tried to be here for a short period of time. The other thing you need to understand is before I went into leadership in business, or before I even went into business, I've been here for 19 and a half years. So I think a lot of the transition to being happy here, loving what Hawaii had, having my 3 kids born here. Maybe after my first son was born here, I felt like I was part of Hawaii in a different way. But I had a longer transition than a lot of people that come for a short period of time did. And I was really lucky that Bambi and I liked the things that Hawaii has.
What is it that you were doing in Iowa that prepared you for these such high positions in Hawaii?
You know what? I don't have any idea the answer to that question. That's a really good question. I went to law school. And in law school, I learned a manner of thinking. I learned how to write. I learned how to present my thoughts verbally. And those were some of the skills that helped me in my transition to Hawaii and in my success. But mentors in Hawaii sort of took the raw materials that were there and shaped them into whatever success I've been able to have.
So who would those mentors be?
My first mentor was somebody named Marshall Goodsell. And Marshall, the law firm's now Goodsell, Anderson, Quinn, and Stifel. When I started in 1972, it was Jenks, Kidwell, Goodsell, and Anderson. Mr. Goodsell was from Galesburg, Illinois, a Harvard-educated lawyer, represented a lot of major businesses here, and I worked for him. He taught me that there wasn't anybody in the business community that would read anything I wrote that was longer than a page. And he said, if you're not smart enough to really explain a complicated subject in a concise manner, you're probably not smart enough to be a good lawyer. And he taught me the importance of that and attention to detail. When I first had opportunities to do community service, he looked at me and said, well, what's in your heart, Mitch? He says, you really care about this subject. And gave me a pretty good foil for considering what I'd do and what I wouldn't do in community service. So Marshall was really my first mentor, and a very significant one.
Do you remember a specific instance where you were, learning something from him or sat down with him and
several
it made a big
several
difference?
times early on, I wrote, he had a question, and so I needed to write a memo in response to the question that was presented. And I thought, sort of bury the subject and write it and have the answers. And Marshall really taught me that the way I wrote it was way too verbose and not helpful from a business point of view. The other thing he taught me is if Evan and Carrie have a question for me that they want to ask me as a lawyer, you don't want me to tell you what you can't do or that you can't do something. You want me to be smart enough to figure out how you can get to the objective you want consistently under the law. And in multiple situations, Marshall taught me that. Marshall and several other of my partners also taught me that how you live your life outside of your work reflects back on your work. And so you got to keep all parts of your life and the financial part of your life squared away if you wanted to be successful in the career part of your life.
When you went into law, did you think that you'd be going into business or eventually a nonprofit
I had
organization?
absolutely no idea. No, this is something that's evolved. My life has been a more incredible adventure than I could have ever believed. I thought I would be, when I went to law school, I didn't even know what law was, a lot, because there weren't lawyers in my family. And ultimately, when I came out of law school, I wanted to be a successful lawyer. I wanted to be a business lawyer and help businesses do business transactions. And Hawaii was a fun place to be able to do that. And the way it's evolved has been beyond my expectations.
When did you know you wanted to leave law and go into the business realm?
When Peter Ubroth gave me the opportunity to consider being president of Hawaiian Airlines, because before then I'd received offers to leave law and I didn't really think I wanted to. And this was like something I believed in that I could be passionate about, because at the time mainland carriers were getting ready to enter this market. It was unclear whether there would be local carriers that would survive, and I thought Hawaii needed to have an airline that was run and managed from Hawaii, where decisions were made here about the transportation from this place to places outside Hawaii. And so it was like a little bit of a cause. It was something that I had been around for 14 or 15 years as outside counsel, so I knew a lot about the finances and the law side of the financing and equipment for the airline. So I had something to bring in terms of transactional strength. And it was a chance to try it. And the worst thing that could have happened is I could have gone back and been a lawyer again. This is the way I looked at it at the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for more on Greater Good Radio.